This is astonishing period we're in, and it comes as Donald Trump is nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. Pakistan has nominated him for brokering a peace deal between Pakistan and India. He's also just recently signed a treaty between, helped mediate a treaty between Rwanda and the Congo. So tell me about his chances of winning a Nobel Peace Prize in 2026.
Well, he deserved the Nobel Peace Prize for the Abraham Accords in his first term, but of course, that's not what the Nobel Committee is interested in. For an American to win these Nobel Prizes, you have to be anti-American. That's basically what I'm looking for. I don't think Trump stands a big chance, but ironically, Rita, you want to talk about peace. I think what we're seeing tonight, this is what brings about peace. You don't bring about peace by endless negotiations, pallets of money to bribe your bitter enemies. You bring about peace through strength. And Ronald Reagan knew that. Donald Trump knows that. And that's what we're seeing today.
He seems to understand the mindset of these regimes, whether he's talking to North Korea, whether he's talking to the Iranian regime, even negotiating with the Chinese, whilst many in the West have got a fairly naive idea, particularly when dealing in the Middle East, where they think they can sort of hug these Islamist dictators into behaving better, when Donald Trump understands you get peace through strength.
Rita, I don't know why that is so hard for so many people to figure out, honestly. You look at world history and you see it over and over and over again. Weakness invites aggression. It is strength that deters aggression. It is strength that really can bring about peace. And we've seen it over and over. We certainly didn't see it during the Joe Biden administration. We didn't see it under Barack Obama, but we're seeing it now in the Trump administration.
And I think, John, on that, I'd just make the point, if people have just tuned in, this is an absolutely historic moment. Outsiders was live on the morning that Donald Trump was assassinated. Attempted assassination when the bullet flicked his ear. Attempted assassination, and we were live that morning. We said then, and Spectator Australia ran a cover showing that it felt like the hand of God had flicked that bullet out of his way. Well, this morning we're live, and the result of that, the fact that Donald Trump survived that assassination attempt now means that people like Rita Panahi's family can now look forward to an Iran free of the evil theocratic regime of the Ayatollahs. That is what we're looking at. That is how big and important this morning is. This is huge, huge news around the world. John, I want to also ask you about the ramifications of this, because you mentioned peace through strength. As I think James said earlier, had Donald Trump failed to live up to this, you'd have had China emboldened, Russia more emboldened, but suddenly America is now the dominant force on the planet, prepared to use its military superiority to fight evil. What other ramifications? Do you think China and Russia will be sitting there now a little bit more nervous than they were half an hour ago, John Hinderaker?
Yeah, Ron, that's a great point. Keep in mind that Iran is supposedly this great ally of both Russia and China. So an interesting question is going to be, will Russia or China do anything about this? And I think the answer is no.
Yeah.
I think that, I think one thing that the nations of the world are going to learn is that being the ally of Russia or the ally of China doesn't actually pay off that well after all. We'll see, but at least that's my prediction.
James.
It's really ironic to me, John, here that, the left, which spent so long saying, oh, Donald Trump is a puppet of Russia, he's a puppet of Putin, that they aren't out there cheering in the streets right now because, of course, it feels to me like the left here, I suspect, is going to be all rather sort of, well, they'll have a little bit of a case of the sads here. Why did he go and do this? Iran was being attacked by plucky little Israel, all this sort of thing. Where does this leave the left here in America? Because again, this may be one of these sort of 80-20 issues we talk about but instead of being like, boys and girls locker rooms, it's huge global geopolitics. Does the left decide that it is going to say, this was a terrible thing that Donald Trump did, taking nuclear weapons out of the hands of a bunch of theocrats? Or do they say, you know, we're actually going to have to say this was a good thing and the world is a better place. And good on Donald Trump for standing up to the authoritarian regimes, that he is supposedly so close to.
They'll find a way to protest. John Hinderaker.
Naive James. John, please set him straight.
Well, James, you're kidding, of course. I mean, what the Democrats are going to do is to sit back and hope for failure. They're going to hope that this somehow turns out badly, and if it does, they'll pounce on Trump and they'll try to take political advantage. The thing you always have to keep in mind when you talk about military action is that the ultimate political ramifications depend on how it turns out. And so if we have a happy outcome here, if the mullahs flee and the Iranian people rise up and maybe the Shah comes back, who knows? But we have a new and certainly better regime in Iran, and we don't have a wider war. Some people talk about World War III. I think that's kind of ridiculous. But if it turns out well, then I think the Democrats are just left with nothing to say.
Absolutely. John Hinderaker, always great to chat to you, but what an extraordinary morning for us to be talking to you. Unbelievable moment in world history. A payload of bombs were dropped on 3 of Iran's nuclear sites. Fordo, the main one, is now gone.